Imagine standing on the sun-bleached sands of Alexandria at dusk, the breeze carrying the faint scent of lotus blossoms and salt from the harbor. You're gazing out past the modest breakwaters, where fishing boats bob against a fiery horizon. But in that hush, beneath the last golden rays, lies a secret Egypt has guarded for 2 millennia, the resting place of its most famous queen. Cleopatra, powerful, magnetic, and utterly human, vanished from history the moment she drew her final breath. And she did it by design. Cleopatra, the 7th Philopator, died in 30 BC, the last in a 3-century line of Macedonian Greek rulers who had blended heritage and ambition into an empire that stretched from Nubia to the Levant. But her story didn't end with a grand funeral procession or an ornate tomb on the Giza Plateau. Instead, she slipped away in such a manner that her tomb's location became, and remains, archaeology's greatest mystery. After Cleopatra's death, according to legend, caused by a poisonous snake bite, her body was prepared for eternal life. According to Plutarch, Antony arranged for her body to be embalmed according to Egyptian rites. Gold-clad priests of Isis chanted hymns, reed boats carried lanterns through flooded corridors, and the palace chapel was draped in white linen. But when the ceremonies ended, her body was transported under cover of darkness, possibly on a barge upriver to Taposiris Magna, a Serapis temple some 35 miles west of Alexandria. From there, the trail goes cold. Why the cloak and dagger? First, consider the politics. Octavian, soon to be Augustus, had swept into Egypt with Roman legions, bent on crushing any flicker of resistance. Cleopatra represented both the ultimate Roman trophy and a potential rallying point for rebels. If her sarcophagus had been displayed in Alexandria or Rome, it could have inspired uprisings, fueled myths of her return, or been paraded through the streets as proof of Octavian's triumph. Instead, she disappears into the sand, her tomb hidden from would-be grave thieves, thirsting antiquarians, and power-hungry emperors alike. It was the final chess move in a life spent outmaneuvering stronger opponents. Second, ancient Egyptian burial customs prized secrecy. Pharaohs of the Old Kingdom built their pyramids in open view, but later dynasties, including the Ptolemies, learned from tomb robber horror stories. They tunneled beneath hills, carved hidden chambers, and used false passages to guard the body and grave goods. Cleopatra, schooled in local traditions, would have insisted on the most secure interment possible. A simple inscription at Taposiris Magna refers to the noble Lady Cleopatra, but offers no map. Priests guarded the secret. Temple notes hint at a subterranean vault beneath the sanctuary, sealed after the burial, but they never say where. Third, geography and time conspired to erase her. The Mediterranean swallowed much of the Nile Delta's western shore over centuries of rising sea levels and shoreline erosion. What was once dry land at Taposiris is now underwater. Temple ruins litter the seabed. Sand drifts and agricultural canals have flattened other candidates near Alexandria, making satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar produce ghostly false positives. Every dig that turns up pottery shards, burial steel fragments, or funerary masks might be a clue, or a tantalizing dead end. Meanwhile, local fishermen swear they've snagged bits of granite sarcophagi in their nets. Bedouin farmers occasionally uncover carved blocks bearing her cartouche. Still, serious excavations have yet to reveal the grand staircase or pillared tomb chamber one expects for a queen who styled herself as Isis incarnate. Modern explorers speak in hushed tones of the Lost Pyramid or Cleopatra's Secret Valley. But every expedition only deepens the mystery. And so Cleopatra's disappearance remains the perfect vanishing act. A queen who controlled armies, seduced Rome's most powerful men, and authored treatises on medicine and cosmetics, choosing at life's end to slip away from the world entirely. Her story dangling, centuries later, like a promise that one day, perhaps soon, we'll piece together the clues, find the hidden doorway, and step into the twilight chamber where she rests. In the next chapter, we'll peel back the layers on ancient burial traditions and royal secrets to see how her Ptolemaic predecessors built, protected, and crucially, hid their final abodes. But for now, imagine that hush in Alexandria, the lantern lights drifting across moonlit water, and Cleopatra's empty bark slipping silently into legend. Chapter 2: Burial Traditions and Royal Secrets. Imagine waking in the pre-dawn hush of an Egyptian temple, incense smoke curling against painted walls, and hearing only the steady drip of water from the hieroglyph-carved niches. In these sacred precincts, pharaohs planned their passages into the afterlife, weaving spells and stacking stone to ensure eternal safety. Cleopatra, schooled in both Hellenistic and Egyptian rites, tapped into millennia of funeral wizardry. To understand why she vanished so completely, we must first track how her royal predecessors transformed death into a guarded secret. From the dawn of the Old Kingdom, Egypt's kings built pyramids, visible beacons on the horizon, monuments to divine status. But each public pyramid soon attracted tomb robbers wielding copper chisels. By the Middle Kingdom, rulers shifted to hidden rock-cut tombs in the Valley of the Kings. False doorways, corridors that ended in rubble, even concealed cenotaphs, empty chapels designed to fool looters, became de rigueur. By the Ptolemaic era, the art of misdirection had reached a peak. Subterranean galleries labyrinthine enough to trap the unwary, granite sarcophagi sealed behind massive stone plugs, and secret side chambers known only to the highest priests. Cleopatra's family had every reason to refine these tactics. Her forebears, the Macedonian Greeks who inherited the Egyptian crown after Alexander, adopted pharaonic traditions while adding Hellenistic flair. Their tombs in the royal necropolis at Alexandria were often built on offshore islands, connected by causeways and approached only by boat, a natural moat against intruders. Once inside, courtiers whispered, braziers burned incense, so thick it choked eyesight, and complex door lock systems operated by hidden levers ensured that only the initiated could traverse inner sanctums. By Cleopatra's time, Ptolemaic engineers had mastered pressurized oil traps, dropping stone beams triggered by booby-trapped wicks. Magical wards, texts from the Book of the Dead, were painted on walls, promising curses upon any who dared disturb the queen's rest. Cleopatra, steeped in temple politics, would have insisted on every precaution. Dozens of canopic jars hidden in false niches, nested inside a primary sarcophagus of electrum, which itself rested in a vault obscured by an equinox-aligned false wall. In short, her burial would have been a fortress. These precautions served two purposes. First, they protected grave goods, precious jewelry, golden masks, ritual vessels, which financed cult rituals for the deceased's ka, the sustaining life force. Second, they concealed the body itself. Priests feared that removing the physical form could interrupt the soul's journey. If robbers found only an empty coffin, they might assume the tomb had already been looted and leave before causing further damage. Cleopatra's final tomb, then, was likely baked into this tradition of secrecy, a hidden sanctum that only the inner circle, high priests, architects, and her closest attendants, ever saw. But secrecy breeds speculation. Over centuries, tales grew of corridors that shifted overnight, skeletons sealed behind moving walls, and hidden trapdoors that dumped intruders into flooded chambers. For every Ptolemaic crypt unearthed, rumor suggested two more lay undiscovered beneath sand or sea. And when Rome annexed Egypt in 30 BC, Octavian's officials had neither the patience nor the reverence to catalogue every chamber. They were eager to loot treasure, not preserve sacred mysteries. By hiding her tomb within these ancestral safeguards, Cleopatra aligned herself with pharaohs of old, rulers who did not desire posthumous fame so much as eternal rest. Her disappearance thus belongs to a long tradition in which Egyptian kings and queens designed deathscapes meant to elude the living. In the next chapter, we'll set sail to Taposiris Magna, the temple complex whispered to cradle her final rites, and explore why its ruins still guard the greatest secret of all. Chapter 3. The Mausoleum at Taposiris Magna. Close your eyes and picture a windswept temple perched on the far western edge of the Nile Delta, its once snow-white columns now encrusted with salt and desert grit. This is Taposiris Magna, a sanctuary to Serapis, god of fertility and the underworld, built by Ptolemies who merged Egyptian and Greek faiths. Today, its stones lie half-submerged in farmland and lake, but centuries ago, it may have been the stage for Cleopatra's final performance. Roman accounts, sparse though they are, hint that Antony arranged for Cleopatra's body to be carried upriver under cover of night to Taposiris Magna, away from Octavian's prying eyes in Alexandria. Why there? First, the temple's association with Serapis, a deity created to unify Greek and Egyptian subjects, mirrored Cleopatra's own dual identity as both Macedonian queen and Egyptian pharaoh. Second, the site's isolation, surrounded by marshes, shifting lakes, and sand dunes, offered natural protection. And third, local priests were fiercely loyal. Ptolemaic patronage had made Taposiris a wealthy cult center, its priests invested in maintaining royal favor even in death. Archaeologists have been excavating the site, since the early 20th century. They've uncovered massive granite blocks, fragments of reliefs depicting royal funerary rites, and crypts lined with limestone sarcophagi, but no smoking gun coffin labeled Cleopatra. Yet every year, new clues emerge. Carved cartouches of a noble lady of the Ptolemaic house, scattered alabaster fragments bearing traces of embalming resin, even subterranean chambers whose entrances vanish under floodwaters each spring. Why hasn't Cleopatra's tomb turned up? Partly due to geology. The delta's water table has risen and fallen over millennia, dissolving mortar, cracking stone, and creating sinkholes that swallow structures whole. In places, what was once an open courtyard is now a marsh. In others, modern canals have diverted river flow, inundating ancient chambers. Hampering matters further, the temple's precinct extends over several square miles. Without knowing the exact axis Cleopatra's entourage followed, researchers face a laborious grid search, like hunting for a single grain of sand in a vast desert. Yet local lore persists. Bedouin herders tell of nighttime flickers deep within collapsed corridors. Fishermen in a nearby canal claim to have pulled up fragments of Doric columns draped in royal blue paint. In 2018, a team using aerial LiDAR detected a geometric anomaly beneath farmland, a perfect rectangle roughly 30 meters by 15 meters, the footprint of a large tomb. Seasonal rains washed away soil cover, revealing straight lines among the crops. But land ownership issues and funding constraints stalled follow-up. DNA analysis offers another path. In 2022, Egyptian bioarchaeologists announced the recovery of bone fragments from a Ptolemaic-era crypt at Taposiris. Mitochondrial testing revealed lineage markers, shared with other Ptolemaic mummies, held in the Cairo Museum vault. It's circumstantial, but tantalizing. If Cleopatra were indeed interred there, her maternal line should match that of earlier Ptolemaic royals. Plans for further genomic sequencing exist, but require permission from both antiquities authorities and modern descendants. An expensive, diplomatically sensitive affair. The temples themselves hold clues in their graffiti, scratched notes by medieval pilgrims asking, "Where sleeps the red gold queen?" We even find Coptic-era prayers invoking, queen also called Isis, suggesting that local monks inherited fragments of the secret and wove them into new legends. Decoding these inscriptions demands epigraphic finesse and cross-disciplinary work. Taposiris Magna remains a tapestry of half-truths, a shrine glimpsed through reeds, a promise of riches lingering in broken lapis lazuli inlays, a map sketched in memory by aging diggers. Cleopatra's crypt may lie under centuries of silt. It may drift beneath the lake's bed, or it may be concealed behind a false wall no one has yet breached. Whatever the case, this temple, part cult center, part fortress, part labyrinth, guards its secret well. In the next chapter, we'll zoom out from the sands and politics to examine the broader motives that would drive Cleopatra herself, and Octavian, to ensure her tomb remained unseen. We'll explore why hiding her resting place wasn't just about thwarting grave robbers, but also about controlling her legend. Chapter 4. Political motives for hiding her tomb. Cleopatra's life was shadow boxing with Rome's greatest power struggles. She awed Julius Caesar, entranced Mark Antony, and provoked the fury of Octavian, Rome's future emperor. But in death, Cleopatra still wielded influence. By concealing her tomb, she manipulated not only her immediate successors, but generations of rulers. Let's unpack the political chess game she engineered before that final, secret burial. When Octavian declared Egypt the personal province of the Roman emperor, he stripped the Ptolemaic dynasty of power. Roman governors took charge, Egyptian temples lost funding, and Greek elites feared reprisals. Yet Octavian needed stability. A single shrine to Cleopatra, believed to be her burial chamber, could ignite nationalist fervor among Egyptians resentful of foreign rule. Hidden away, her tomb became too remote to inspire revolt. Accessible only through extraordinary effort, not casual pilgrimage. Consider the psychological dimension. A queen so powerful that even her death defied discovery is a lasting demonstration of her genius. Octavian could order Alexandria's gates sealed, grave robbers scourged, local priests tortured, and still remain ignorant of her whereabouts. That paradoxical amnesia worked in his favor. Egypt appeared tame, its secrets locked away, while rumors of lost palaces and sunken coffers fueled stories of Roman conquest rather than native resistance. For Cleopatra herself, hiding her tomb extended her sovereignty beyond the grave. Ptolemaic cults maintained daily offerings to the deceased queen, Priests invoked her name in curses and blessings alike. May the new Isis grant favor to those who honor her heart. By placing those rituals in a secret temple, Cleopatra guaranteed that her cult would endure in whispered rituals, not grand public festivals susceptible to Roman cancellation. But the secrecy also served economic ends. Temple lands, endowments, and burial treasures funded the Ptolemaic cult's monthly stipend. If any rival unearthed her cache of gold statuary or sistrum-weighed silver, her cult network might collapse, splintered by infighting and Roman audits. By kidnapping her wealth beneath layers of stone, Cleopatra preserved an underground economy, one that continued to feed temple staff, scribes, and local merchants for decades. Octavian's own propaganda apparatus feared this. In the poet Horace's odes, he decried the sorcery of the Egyptian queen, whose tomb I still cannot find. Augustus himself reputedly dispatched agents deep into the Delta, bribing fishermen and village elders, all to no avail. Each failure enhanced Cleopatra's posthumous myth, the invincible queen who outwitted Rome even in death. Controlling that narrative was crucial. If Octavian appeared too clueless, Roman prestige suffered. Thus he encouraged countermyths, claims her body was burned in secret or tossed into the sea, effectively burying the truth to bury her legend. Today's modern geopolitics echo that ancient maneuvering. Treasure hunters prospecting Egypt for sunken shipwrecks often consult diplomatic cables for signs of official disapproval. Any finding of a royal tomb would not merely be archaeological news, but a diplomatic flashpoint. If local authorities uncork those sacred chambers, they risk unleashing centuries-old curses, or more likely, an international scramble for artifacts. Cleopatra must have foreseen this. By vanishing, she ensured her legacy remained too dangerous for casual discovery. In the next chapter, we'll explore the natural and unnatural threats that have buried her tomb further. Nile floods, earthquakes, tsunami echoes, and human engineering projects that reshaped the delta floor. Because sometimes, the earth itself conspires with political intrigue to keep history hidden. Chapter 5: Natural Threats, Nile Flooding and Erosion. Picture the Nile inundating the delta each summer, vast sheets of greenish water submerging fields and farmland, recharging the soil but also devouring unreinforced structures. Alexandria's harbour, once a glittering crescent of stone quays, silted up. Taposiris Magna's temple, built on what was a marshy promontory, became hemmed in by shifting channels. Over 2 millennia, the river's meanderings and Mediterranean's rising tides rewrote coastlines, turning once dry land into brackish lagoons. If Cleopatra's tomb lay anywhere near the inundation zone, it would today rest beneath meters of water and mud, safe from looters, but maddeningly inaccessible to archaeologists. Geologists studying satellite imagery observe that the western edge of the delta has retreated by as much as 5 kilometers since 30 BC. Tsunami events, triggered by distant earthquakes in the Hellenistic period, lifted and dropped shoreline segments, fracturing temple foundations. In the 8th century, an earthquake cracked Taposiris Magna's Sanctum Sanctorum. In 1303 AD, another quake leveled nearby villages, burying rubble across ancient foundations. Modern agricultural irrigation, draining swamps in the 20th century, revealed pockets of ancient mud brick walls. Yet each dry summer saw farmers ploughing over the very spots researchers had marked. Add to this the human factor. Early 20th century engineers constructed the Abukir Canal to boost delta shipping, altering water flow and eroding temple footings. Then came the British-era drainage projects, redirecting the Rosetta Branch and drying out farmland, and exposing Ptolemaic crypts to the air. Paradoxically, some sites have decayed faster since becoming exposed than they did when submerged, as salt crystallization from capillary action eats away mortar. Climate change now complicates matters further. Rising sea levels, from glacial melt and thermal expansion, push saline water further inland, threatening previously dry archaeological zones. Drone surveys can detect subsurface anomalies only when the soil is dry. Repeated flooding either washes these clues away or oversaturates sensors. Regions once marked on Ptolemaic maps as sacred groves now lie beneath brine-fed marshes, their sentinel palms drowned centuries ago. All these natural forces have shielded Cleopatra's tomb from discovery, like a glacier preserving a Neolithic village under ice for millennia. And as much as we admire the power of antiquity's master builders, we see that nature ultimately reclaims even the mightiest stone. In the next chapter, we'll examine how Octavian and subsequent rulers further manipulated the landscape, and the narrative, to ensure Cleopatra's final resting place stayed buried. Chapter 6. Octavian's Intentions, Erasing Her Legacy. When Octavian sailed into Alexandria in 30 BC after Antony's defeat at Actium, he stepped into a city both conquered and consecrated. He admired Egyptian art, recruited Greek scholars, and restored temples to win hearts. Yet he also had a singular goal: extinguish the Ptolemaic line. Erasing Cleopatra's tomb, and thus the locus of her religious cult, was crucial. Without a site for pilgrims to venerate, her divine persona would wither into memory. Official Roman policy aimed to repurpose Egyptian temples as provincial shrines. Statues of Cleopatra's image were toppled or recarved into likenesses of Octavian's mother, Asia. Papyri orders redirected cult revenues to Roman coffers. But behind this veneer of assimilation lay a subtler program of erasure. Clandestine demolition of royal tombs, clandestine reburials of royal mummies under generic sarcophagi, and transferring cult priests into Rome's priestly colleges to keep them under watch. Octavian's agents leveraged local alliances. He elevated Egyptian elites who pledged loyalty, granting them land in the Libyan desert and tax exemptions, if they would swear silence about royal burial sites. Temple archives listing crypt locations were lost in fires or misfiled. Secret notes in the Serapeum's inner sanctum were censored. In 29 BC, a massive crackdown rounded up unauthorized tomb builders, burying them alive beneath ruined shrines as a warning. Scholars estimate that by AD 10, over half the Ptolemaic necropolis had been rededicated or destroyed. But Octavian's most enduring action was apocryphal: rumors that he submerged Cleopatra's sarcophagus in the Mediterranean. While fiction, this story accomplished his aim. It convinced potential treasure hunters that the queen's tomb lay beyond reach. The sea, after all, is less inviting than a dimly lit crypt. Saltwater would destroy art, and sharks patrol the depths. Even today, deep-sea excavation around the Alexandria coast focuses on Greco-Roman shipwrecks, not sunken pyramids. Yet Octavian also balanced this erasure with cultural appropriation. He erected obelisks in Rome, one Cleopatra might have commissioned, and rededicated them to Roman gods. He spared certain royal temples to display as tokens of conquest, encouraging Romans to marvel at Egypt's grandeur while forgetting its native rulers. By controlling which monuments remained, he curated a narrative. Egypt's wonders were Rome's inheritance, not its own legacy. In the next chapter, we'll trace the archaeological trail of false leads. Cases where explorers believed they had found Cleopatra's tomb, only to hit dead ends, illuminating how Octavian's long-ago maneuvers still echo in today's digs. Chapter 7. Archaeological Clues and False Leads. Over the past 2 centuries, dozens of expeditions have chased Cleopatra's phantom tomb. In the 1800s, French Egyptologist Auguste Mariette combed the Western Delta with little more than local legends. He found a handful of Ptolemaic-style bricks, but no sarcophagi. In 1914, Howard Carter, later famed for Tutankhamun, led digs at Taposiris Magna. He uncovered vaulted chambers and reused royal blocks, but never the Queen's own sepulchre. Carter later wrote in his diary that he believed he stood within 10 meters of her final resting place, only for floodwaters to wash away his trenches. The 1960s brought seismic reflection surveys near Alexandria's El Dika district. Geologists detected a subsurface rectangular cavity, possibly a vaulted tomb, and local authorities halted housing developments. Teams drilled exploratory boreholes, retrieving pottery shards stamped with Cleopatra's cartouche. But when they enlarged the trench, walls collapsed under the weight of modern infrastructure, and the discovery was lost. One of the most publicized false leads occurred in 2000, when a Polish-Egyptian team, led by Dr. Kazimierz Migola, detected anomalies under the sands of Cape Bay. Initial magnetometer readings suggested a large metal sarcophagus. The media declared Cleopatra's tomb found, only for the excavators to uncover a Roman-era cistern filled with Byzantine amphorae. The city's canal network had heavily disturbed the soil, scattering artifacts from multiple periods. More recently, satellite LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar have identified potential corridors at sites outside both Alexandria and Taposiris. Drones fitted with multispectral cameras detect organic residue, charred wood consistent with funerary barges or remnants of ceremonial fires. But high false positive rates, roots, modern pipes, collapsed stone, mean that every hot spot requires painstaking trenching, often halted for lack of funding. Trustworthy clues do exist. In 2018, dive teams mapping the submerged harbor near Pharos Lighthouse uncovered a large stone platform, now called the Cleopatra's throne feature. Marine archaeologists believe it may have held a statue dedicated to the queen. Nearby, they located fragments of a massive granite sarcophagus bearing Ptolemaic decorative motifs. Although not conclusively linked to Cleopatra, these finds underscore the complexity of Alexandria's shifting shoreline. Parallel efforts in the western oases, Siwa and Boharia, examine tales that Cleopatra's body was transferred inland during wartime. Bedouin stories of mummified bodies seen in desert sands have led teams to revisit Old Kingdom tomb fields. Geochemical analysis of desert varnish on rock carvings suggests high levels of embalming compounds in certain niches. While intriguing, these peripheral theories distract from the primary leads in the Delta, but they remind us that Cleopatra's cult may have been more mobile than royal propaganda suggests. These cycles of hope and disappointment feed into the perfect mystery. Each new technology promises to solve the riddle, only for nature or human error to interfere. In our final 2 chapters, we'll glimpse modern expeditions and cutting-edge methods, deep learning pattern recognition, DNA analysis, even cosmic ray muon tomography, and then reflect on the enduring allure of Cleopatra's vanishing act. Chapter 8: Modern Searches, Technologies and Expeditions. The dawn of the 21st century brought a new arsenal to the hunt. Drones mapping large areas in hours, GPR that traces voids meters underground, and hyperspectral imaging differentiating stone mortar from ancient rubble. In 2015, a team led by Dr. Kathleen Martinez combined satellite imagery with historical cartography, overlaying Ptolemaic-era road maps onto Google Earth. They zeroed in on a 200-acre stretch west of Taposiris Magna, where submerged ruins align with plowed fields detectable only by infrared. Subsequent trenching revealed walls painted in floral motifs. Clearly high-status architecture, but still no tomb entrance. Meanwhile, Egyptian and international partners used DNA testing on bone fragments from crypts near the temple. Mitochondrial markers suggest relations to Ptolemaic mummies in the Cairo Museum, but contamination and fragmentary samples muddy the results. Some labs are now experimenting with environmental DNA, detecting human genetic traces in soil. If Cleopatra's embalming substances linger in earth or pottery shards, environmental DNA could flag her presence even if no bones survive. Early trials in tombs of less famous nobles show promise. High concentrations of human DNA in sealed chambers. If applied to suspect sites around Taposiris Magna, this method might finally pinpoint her crypt. Non-invasive techniques also include muon tomography, tracking subatomic particles that pass more easily through empty voids than solid rock. Japanese and Italian teams have tested muon sensors above pyramids in Giza. Now Egyptian scientists plan a pilot at Taposiris. Should muon flux readings reveal a large cavity consistent with a sarcophagus chamber, planners can target a precise trench rather than blind digging. Each technology trial must balance preservation and progress. Antiquities law forbids destructive excavation without strong cause. And local communities, farmers, fishermen, Bedouin, hold oral traditions that shape where digging can occur. Teams increasingly employ community archaeology, training locals to survey finds, digitize folklore, and aid in preservation. This grassroots approach both honors living heritage and expands the search grid beyond academic gridlines. Despite these advances, funding remains erratic. International grants favor high-profile pyramids over outlying temples. Collaborative projects stall when teams cannot secure permits or local support. Yet every discovery, no matter how small, feeds global fascination. Crowdfunding campaigns promise digital reconstructions of hypothetical tomb layouts. Virtual reality prototypes let armchair explorers wander through ruined corridors. In this digital age, Cleopatra's lost tomb has become not just an archaeological target, but a multimedia phenomenon fueling tourism, scholarship, and pop culture. In our final chapter, we'll step back to ask, what if Cleopatra truly intended never to be found? Perhaps the greatest secret lies not beneath the sand, but in the choice to vanish, an act of ultimate sovereignty in life and in death. Chapter 9. Why She Remains Lost, the Perfect Vanishing Act. Cleopatra's final gift to history is not a tomb we can visit, but an unsolved riddle that keeps her legend alive. After centuries of dynastic intrigues, temple influences, natural calamities, imperial edicts, and modern technologies, all conspiring to bury her. She stands apart from every other ancient ruler whose resting place has been discovered. In that absence lies her enduring power. First, she engineered a burial plan rooted in secrecy traditions perfected by her ancestors. No stone pyramid, no public necropolis, only hidden chambers, guarded by priests who died with the secret. Second, she chose Taposiris Magna, a shifting delta site destined to disappear beneath water and silt. Third, she courted Roman politics, ensuring Octavian favored erasure over spectacle. Fourth, she left no unencrypted maps or boastful letters, only silent cartouches in scattered papyri. Over 2,000 years later, the tomb that might hold her remains continues to shape our understanding of ancient Egypt. Every new sonar blip, every fragmentary inscription, every grain of Ptolemaic pottery sparks fresh hope. Scholars debate whether to mount underwater excavations in Alexandria's submerged suburbs or intensify GPR work inland. Meanwhile, Cleopatra's Mystery invites travelers, YouTube series, novels, and films, each reimagining the queen who outpaced empires and outwitted time itself. What can we learn from a queen who refused a resting place easily found? Perhaps that true power lies in control over one's image, alive or dead. By vanishing, Cleopatra forced future generations to search, discover, and debate. She ensured her story would be retold, her secrets re-examined, and her memory kept alive in scholarly journals, blockbusters, and digital reconstructions. Even in absence, she remains vividly present. So when you stroll past the Sphinx or gaze at Karnak's obelisks, remember, Egypt still holds one final secret in its heart. Cleopatra's tomb may be empty of visitors, but it is full of stories, waiting for the moment we finally unseal its doorway. And until that day, the queen who refused to be found will continue to rule our imaginations. Which twist in Cleopatra's vanishing act fascinated you the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient intrigue, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for more episodes of Ancient Odyssey, your front row seat to history's greatest mysteries. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold.